Good day, everybody. Wanted to show a little some new arrivals at the farm here. We decided to go get some ducks. These are not really what we're planning to do anything to make a living or anything for the farm. And so a lot of the stuff that we do here on the farm is to make an income or to make a living with. But that's not to say that everything that I want to do on the farm is just for money. This is actually mostly for pleasure for us. I had ducks as a kid, grew up with ducks, and so I really enjoy being around ducks. I don't know, I just like them. They're kind of pleasant to watch and listen to. And but these right here are all but two. They're actually khaki Campbells, and khaki Campbells are the best egg layers, best egg layer ducks. They say they lay anywhere from 300 to 340 a year, and that's an average across. That's an average for the duck for all of its years that it's laying, but it's also an average for all of the species as a whole. Every egg layer, anything that lays eggs, their number is obviously different. It's not only specific to the breed, but it's also specific to the duck itself. Just like us as people, we all have certain differences. Even though we're a lot similar, we have certain differences between each other. But then the other two that you're seeing, like this one right here, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can spot them out. There's two of them. There's one there and one there. Those are a blue Swedish. Now, they're not what you would typically see in a blue Swedish. They don't have the white belly, so they may not be a full blood. I'm not entirely sure. I've never known anything about blue Swedish until here recently. I never even heard of them. Apparently there's blue and black Swedish, maybe even some other ones. But apparently they all come from the same, they're basically a Swedish duck, and they just kind of comes out in the gene, you know, whatever happens to come out. But anyway, so I got two female on the blue Swedish. There were some males there, but I didn't grab them. But what I did was I got one male khaki Campbell, and then 7 female khaki Campbells. So I did that because I wanted the eggs from the khaki Campbells. And so what we're going to do is I think it's about a ½ acre of a pond. Pretty nice sized pond. And we're far enough away from everyone. We do have one neighbor, of course, that's right across the fence here. But as you can see, it's just woods. Right there where that pine tree is, that's where our border is. And then on the other side is his place. And it's all just woods. Way back, a little bit farther back, is where his house is, and it's actually way up that way, close to the road. You might can see it through the trees, barely. Well, actually, what you're seeing through the trees is actually a chicken house on the opposite side. You can barely see that roof line sometimes in the winter, but that doesn't bother me too much. That's actually the only thing that you can see on my property that shows any sign of us being anywhere in civilization, because we're actually way back off the road. Our driveway, I don't remember exactly how long it is, but if I had to give it an estimate, I would say it was a good quarter mile, close to it. Probably not exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised with the bins and stuff in it. I would not be surprised if it's a quarter mile long. I do know that we're close to the back fence of our property, and from the road to the back fence is a quarter mile. So the actual distance that we are is close to a quarter mile, but not exactly from the road. But the driveway itself with all the bends, I'm pretty sure is a quarter mile. But the point is that we're far enough away from everybody that we pretty much have no, it feels like we're out in the woods. I mean, it's a big open pasture, but there's woods all the way around us. And then even at the road, there's no neighbors across from us. The only neighbors are over here, and then there are several neighbors, but they're all over here back in the woods, you know. But anyway, so the point is that ducks is something that can be, a lot of people can have problems with ducks. They don't like ducks. They don't want ducks because some people say that they're messy. Some people actually don't prefer duck eggs over chicken eggs. I actually don't remember, I'm going to be honest. And that's partly why I got them, is to try out the duck eggs. I can't remember. As a kid, we had ducks and chickens, and we ate the eggs from both. We actually had goose eggs and turkey eggs as well. I remember the turkey eggs and the goose eggs to be enough different that I could classify a difference. I remember them. I remember liking all of them. But the duck eggs, I don't remember them being enough different to really say that they were different from a chicken egg. But there's a lot of people, like if you look online and be like, oh yeah, it tastes a lot different. And some people, they prefer it. Some people, they don't. It's supposed to be higher in fat and higher in protein. So we'll see. We'll see how that is. I typically, I like more fats in my diet. So I probably prefer the creamier, the creaminess of the egg. But we'll see. I may not like it. I may not like it at all. My wife, she may not like it, and if that's the case, we may end up getting rid of these, you know. But I feel like we got these for the pond, so I feel like I always have a few ducks on the pond, provided they don't become an issue. I don't really want to have them pinned up. I don't want to, you know, they got these mobile chicken coops and stuff, and duck coops, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But that's not really what I want. What I really want, this cat is just all over my feet right now. But anyway, so what I really want for these ducks is to be on the pond, just because I kind of like what they look like. They're pleasant to watch on the pond. So a lot of people, they say that they're a nuisance or that they are messy or something like that. And a lot of times that's because A, they don't have a pond for them. They just have water inside, which I have currently, water over there, and we'll get into that in a minute. Or they will say that they are a nuisance because sometimes they got them up close to their house and they stink because they got them in a small area. Or if it's in a mobile coop, they don't stink. There's not that problem. But they're not everything that something just seems a little out of place with ducks. And I think what the real problem is people try to raise ducks as if they were chickens. They get these ducks and they're used to chickens, and then they expect them to be chickens. This is kind of funny. I always did like watching ducks sleep. A lot of times they'll pick up one foot. I don't know if you can see that. And then they'll pick up one foot and then they'll sleep on that other foot. It's kind of interesting. Rest that other foot instead of laying down. It is interesting. Sometimes they do lay down, but anyway, it's kind of fun to watch. Hey, kitty. Little kitty cat running around. So anyway, guys, I just kind of wanted to show these ducks, what we got here. I'll give them a little bit more corn right now. I'm just giving them some cracked corn. It's what I have. I don't, as most people know, I don't really keep a lot of feed on the farm because we raise grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And then we're trying to get into lambs. We got a few sheep and a few goats, and we also do grass-fed with them as well. So we don't ever feed them any feed. Well, and I say don't ever. I actually do. If anybody knows, there are times in the late winter, if they are in a place where they've run out of grass and they need a little bit more protein needs, I will go buy them a protein lick tub on occasion. It's still not what I want to do, and it's not something I try to do. It's usually something I'll give to my mamas. I don't really give it to my steers that often. I have, you know, but that is something that we do on occasion because I feel like it's better, rather than getting them up and trying to feed them every day. I feel like it's still better for them to be out grazing the grass that's there. Like it's like, okay, I could, because they're not getting their protein needs, I could start getting them up and, you know, and trying to help take care of those protein needs. Or I could let them stay out grazing, which I believe is healthier for them. And then the alternative is just give them a protein tub. And they still don't eat that much of the tub. They just, as they need it, they'll eat a little bit. So that's something we do occasionally. Honestly, I've definitely not done that every year. I've just done it from time to time if I needed to. This year is one year that we have been doing that. For this winter, we've done it a time or two, just because it's been a very odd year, and we'll go into that in another video. But anyway, the point is that we don't keep a lot of feed around. And I tend to go off in a rabbit hole, so we'll talk about that in another video. But so what this is this is actually cracked corn we're using for the pigs. We've experimented with several different things, and what I prefer for the pigs is actually a whole feed that's soaked, just because it's cheaper. But I do give them a little bit of this because it's got all kinds of stuff ground up in it. It's actually got like the husk and everything, and so it just kind of gives them a little roughage, a little bit of fiber in their diet. But we also got it because we got a big ton of it, a whole ton, for cheaper. So, but anyway, so this is what I'm using to feed them for now while they are pinned up. I don't have them, well, free ranging really, I guess. I don't have them on their own right now, so I'm going to make sure I'm giving them some feed. Probably I will not feed them nearly as much, if at all. I don't know yet what I'm going to do once they get on their own. We'll see how that goes. I'm sure I'll feed them a little, you know. But anyway, corn is fine to feed them when it comes to ducks, especially cracked corn. They can absorb it a little bit better. Any animal really can absorb the cracked corn better than they can whole corn, especially stuff like goats and sheep. They will just pass that right through. If you feed your goats and sheep feed, we raised them as kids, and that's something that, and even when I had them held up, I had the goats held up for a short time to train them to electric, and during that time, obviously, I was giving them grain and hay, even though normally I don't, just because I had them held up. And I experimented with giving them whole corn because that's what I had, and they were definitely passing it for sure. I don't know about every bit of it, but they were passing it. And then to me, it didn't seem like they were quite as healthy as they should have. But as soon as you gave them that cracked stuff, they were fine. But anyway, so with the birds and stuff, you know, obviously they are omnivores. They're not herbivores like cows and sheep. They're herbivores, but pigs and a lot of different birds are omnivores, kind of like people, you know. So they need a diverse diet of different types of things. They'll eat grubs and stuff for protein, and then they'll eat, they like grain, you know, and then they also like grass. So they actually eat a very diverse diet. Like like people, they, for me specifically, I'm not going to talk about everybody and everybody's diet, obviously, but for me, I feel better usually when I'm eating some meat, some vegetables, and then some grains and things like that. Not everybody does, but that's just me. But anyway, so that's how a lot of birds tend to do. They tend to do better that way. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to put these on the pond once they get used to us, and hopefully they don't become a problem. If they do, then it may be that ducks don't work on our farm. But the only way I could see them becoming a problem is so the pond is way down there. You can see, I may walk down there in a minute, but you can kind of see it. You can't see the pond, but you can see where it would be. It's far back, pretty much the trees that you see way back right there, right past that Dodge and everything, way back in the back. Those are on the back side of that pond. So one problem that I could foresee is if for some reason they started venturing all the way up to the house and they just stayed up here around the house. They just started coming around and getting all around the barn and the shop, and then the lean-to here, and they just stayed in the garden continually. And even that wouldn't be a problem unless they became a nuisance. Like that's where I'm keeping that feed right now. So if they came up there and for some reason they started eating all that feed, or they started eating the dog's food, you know, and things like that, or like getting the trash or something like that, and they just became a nuisance, then that would be a problem. I don't see that happening. I can see them venturing up here on occasion, and being in the garden, of course, would be great, because ducks usually do quite well in the garden. That's one thing we did quite a bit when we were younger. But ducks are waterfowl, okay? So with that big pond over there, they're going to love that so much. I feel like that pond is going to keep them contained, happy, content, and staying close to that pond for the most part. Where we bought them, they lived in a small, tight, penned up area, and that's why the people were getting rid of them, because they couldn't, they didn't feel like they could keep them up the way they wanted to, you know. So they were in a fairly tight spot, and right next door was a pond. And so every time they would try to turn them loose and let them run out, well, of course they went next door and went into that pond, and obviously it was the neighbor's pond, and that didn't work out for them. So that was one reason we went ahead and got these. So the point is that ducks like ponds. They like being around the pond and stuff like that. So if they ever do venture out, I can't see it being for very long, and I can't see it being very far very often. So yes, it's possible on occasion they'll come up here, and you know, and the only other problem would be if people come flying up and down the driveway. But if any, and then they would hit one. But if somebody's flying up and down my driveway, they need to be scolded, you might say. You know, they ought to know better than that. Anyway, and that's not something we really do either. So that I don't really foresee any real problems with that. The only there are two other problems, and one is that if for some reason they said, hey, let's start going up into the neighbor's yard, the neighbor's house is probably about the same distance from the pond as our house is from the pond, but it's all the way up through the roof. No, I mean through the woods. He's got several hunting dogs out there, so if it became a problem, I feel like his hunting dogs would have a meal more than anything. So it would be a problem for me, and it would be a problem for the ducks. But I would say that we would never really hear anything from him. So hopefully that doesn't happen. If that did happen, it's far enough away I don't see it happening. But anyway, so that would be one possible scenario. And of course his dogs, he keeps them all pinned up and everything. But then, or the ducks trying to go up there and get into his feed and everything. Like I said, I don't see that as a problem. I see it being more likely that the ducks would become the meal. But anyway, so if that became a problem, then obviously we would have to do something different. And then the third problem is there's actually where the pond drains off. It drains into a creek that we have running right through the middle of our property. But then that creek goes across the road and then all the way across the neighbor's land, which is one of the pieces of land that we lease. So the other problem I could see is them going down that creek. That's not a problem. If they go down that creek and they go all down in there and everything, not a big problem. But the problem would be if they chose to stay down there and they didn't want to come back here. I think all of those issues can be taken care of by simply giving them a house and nest up here. Y'all tell me what you think. We're far enough away, I don't think it's going to be a problem. So it's something we're going to try out. But one thing I like doing, like I'm sure I'll get a few questions in the comments like, well, why do you have them pinned up now? Why haven't you put them into the pond? All these questions. Anytime I get new animals on the farm, and I think it would be a responsible technique for everyone to adopt, and anytime you get brand new animals that are, even if they're used to people, let's say that they're completely tamed to you, or I mean to people. I'll give you a good for instance. We had a couple of kittens. This one used to be a kitten. Showed up on the farm. We got them from somebody else. They had too many. And they were very tame to people. They loved being around people and everything. We still put them in a kennel for a time. Because if you don't, there is a chance they don't know you. They feel like they're, it's a little bit of stress leaving the old owners and leaving the farm and all like that. So you want to be able to give them a chance to get used to you. But the second thing is there's always the slight chance that they'll have little issues, little sicknesses, little things that they're not used to, because your farm will have certain parasites, certain pathogens, certain little problems that their bodies aren't quite adapted to. So it helps you to watch those things as well. And there's several reasons. And mostly it's just a good comfort for me just to get them used to me. Before I go getting them out, make sure that I can give them a little feed and they'll come up to me or something like that. And you always want to have a backup plan for, okay, what if these animals go somewhere they're not supposed to go? Am I just going to go out frantically running them around, just running around like a chicken with my head cut off? Am I going to be acting crazy and frantic like that? Or am I going to have a plan set? And usually a plan set means that you have some way, something that would cause these animals to want to come to you and follow you. You know, like I'll give you, for instance, our cows are grass-fed, grass-finished cows. But we buy these cows, we started out buying the initial mothers from people that fed feed, okay? So those cows were used to a feed sack. So ever since then, even with their babies and even with all the calves that we've raised, we will actually take a feed sack, or a lot of times it ends up being a mineral sack, but something that they identify as food, and we'll still shake that thing every time we go through a gate or anything. And so those cows learn to associate that with new food, or with something, some reason to follow you. And that works, because we have had a time or two where the cows had gotten somewhere they shouldn't have been, you know, or whatever. And you go out there, you shake that sack, and they just come right to you, and it's not a problem. So the point is, you always want to have some kind of a problem, some kind of a problem solver, some kind of something to back as a backup. So keeping them here, getting them used to me, feeding them a little bit of feed is always good. I want to touch on water just a little bit. So we gave them this water last night. This is about, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in there right now. And you can tell that water's already dirty looking. Like, I would not want to stick my mouth in there and drink that. There's no way. Because obviously not only have they been drinking out of it, but they've been down in it, okay? So you do want to keep clean water for everything that you have. But there's two things you can do, I think. One thing I think I'm going to experiment with. I'm going to try taking this water and actually putting it on the outside of the fence while they're in here. We're going to put them in the pond, let them have a pond. But that way they can still stick their head through the fence and drink the water. But they're not making as big of a mess with it. And that's just while they're in here. The other thing is that people see the water and they consider it, they associate it as nasty and dirty, and they think to themselves, well, I've just got to keep that continually clean. When it comes to ducks, you might be right. When it comes to chickens, dogs, cats, all those things, you want good clean water, cows, whatever. But when it comes to ducks and pigs, you would be working nonstop, because 10-15 minutes later that's going to look dirty again. And the reason is because what is dirty for you or me is not dirty for ducks and pigs, okay? Or even for any animal, really. You know, the term dirty is actually referring to something that's going to harm us, that's bad for our bodies, that's bad for our gut, that's something that we don't want to consume, you know. And so you think to yourself, we think to ourselves, if we drink a cup of water that's got dirt in it, usually that's not going to be good for our bodies. It's going to have stuff in it that our bodies are not tough to. They're not used to dealing with those types of problems. When it comes to ducks and pigs, however, they actually spend their time, and this is the reason why the water looks the way it does. Not only do they get in there with their feet and put their feet in there, okay, and you do want to keep it clean, because there is a chance that they're pooping it in there. And no animal needs to be drinking from their poop, okay? So you need to keep it clean, you know, but to think to yourself that you're going to keep it immaculate is not going to happen, okay? And that's one reason why I like waterfowl to be in a pond, okay, rather than this right here. This is not an ideal scenario for me. But if this is what you have, then just keep in mind that you're probably not going to keep it completely immaculate all the time. And because the other reason is ducks use water to clean their mouths and to clean their nose. So ducks and pigs, they consume a lot of their food from inside the dirt. Like, you'll see chickens, they'll pull the dirt away and they'll peck at the dirt, and they get a little dirt, but mostly they're pecking at the things that are coming up from the dirt when they scratch it away. Whereas ducks, they're less likely to scratch the dirt, and they actually take their beak and they shift around inside the dirt, find the stuff, and then eat it. So the point is that, and then the pigs, they're actually digging through the dirt, and they got their tongues all in that dirt. They're eating all of that dirt. Or not all of the dirt, but they are getting dirt in their mouth, in their bellies, everything. And what that tells you is that these animals are, dirt to them is not dirty, okay? What is bad for them is going to be certain parasites. That's why you don't want them eating or being too close to their own manure, you know, anything like that, anything that's got parasites or things like that. There's other things that are going to be considered dirty. So the point is that actual dirt is not, actual dirt is part, you could almost say it's part of their diet. It's definitely something they're exposed to on a daily basis. I could even argue on an hourly basis. They're exposed to that continually. And then they use the water just to clean it out of their nose and out of their mouth. But they are consuming that. They're actually getting that in with their diet. And so that's something that they are adapted to. They are able to handle that. And a good example would be for humans, is humans, we actually eat things that are not perfectly clean either. There's a lot of things that we eat, almost everything, vegetables, meat, almost every single thing that you can eat has something in it that's technically not good in some way. But your body has filtration systems, you know, your liver and your kidneys and even your gut has ways of filtering these things out, separating them and making them to where they're no longer harmful for you. Like your liver can actually release certain things that can actually deteriorate certain things and neutralize it. So that's kind of the same process with the ducks. Is the ducks are getting portions of that dirt, but their bodies are completely designed to keep all of that filtered out and clean, and it's really about the same. You could say that's about the same as us eating certain vegetables. Like we know that there are certain vegetables that we eat that have certain things that are not the best, technically, when we look at them from a scientific aspect. But then when we look at our bodies, we see that, okay, our bodies actually do filter that out and clean it up, you know. So that's just something to keep in mind, is you're not going to keep it sparkling clean. However, I do suggest if you do have it in there, it's never a bad idea to change it out once a day. You know what I mean? I don't plan on having them in here very long, so I'll definitely be changing out every day, you know, just because it's small enough now that they'll be, you know, they'll run out of water probably, just splashing around in it, you know. And I'll also be moving this around while I'm here. And I'm gonna wrap this video up here in a minute, but I just wanted to show, this is another little thing. Y'all can see I've got two panels just tied together. All I did was wire them together, and then I'm gonna try to get close, see if you can see this. That is a piece of wire after I've got it wired together. See, right there, it's not gonna focus, but once I got it wired together, then there's another piece of wire here that holds these two together so that you can drag this along. Like I can grab this and actually drag it, and it'll move just a little bit. I get that water moved where I want it, and I can drag it where I want it and move it around fairly easy. So the reason I wanted to mention this is this can actually be, for smaller animals, this can be a nice little backup. You got a couple of these panels around or whatever, this can be a really awesome little backup thing to throw some animals in. The thing is, cats can't get through there, but obviously they're going to climb out. But I have actually put her, when she was younger, I've put her in one of these, or I can put a puppy in there or whatever and contain them for a short time, move it around wherever I need to. We got a puppy that my in-laws have right now, and we're actually going to get that puppy from them. And so for a while we'll keep that puppy in here just to keep it from, you know, make sure it knows, don't chase us down the driveway, you know, you need to stay home and all of that. So it's just kind of an awesome little tip, even, you might say, a little backup thing. It's a hog panel. There's two of those there, and you could tie as many as you want together and do that. But two works pretty good for just little stuff like this. I can move them around. I can move them in the garden if I want to. And that's kind of where we got them right now. We got them in this little garden spot. This is one of the, you can tell the garlic's back there. We had tomatoes last year here. We'll have basil this year there. Basil and maybe some oregano and stuff. But this is a bed that we had some spaghetti squash in. So I'm not sure what we're going to plant in here this year. But we'll have something here. So while I've got them up in this little spot, they're fertilizing it for me. Fertilizing it and cleaning it and all of those things. So anyway, just kind of cool. Thought I'd throw that out there. New ducks on the farm. Like I said, don't know if I'll be trying to do anything to make income. If they worked absolutely great, you never know. I might get into it for income. I don't know. Like I said, I had all those khaki Campbells. The other two are the what the goal is to produce eggs and for us. So we use that for our egg consumption. And the other two, they do lay fairly good eggs. They're actually a bigger duck, so they're supposed to be a decent meat duck as well. They just grow slower. They're not going to be the best meat duck because of the speed at which they grow. But once they're fully mature and they do get all the way plumped out, they do actually make good meat ducks as well. So that'd be a good little backup if we decided we wanted to use them for meat ducks. But what I actually got them for is they make good mothers, from what I understand. And if anybody else knows anything about that, I'm not like a duck specialist or anything, so definitely throw your comments in there. But they make good mamas. So what my goal is see, a lot of ducks that are more specialty bred, like khaki Campbells, were bred to be egg producers. They're smaller frame ducks, so they don't put a lot of energy in their meat. They just put a lot of energy into their eggs, and they have a lot more eggs. So that's a pretty good thing. And then like these right here, these actually do have the blue Swedish, they actually do have quite a few eggs. So they put a decent amount of energy into their eggs. But that's the reason they take longer to grow out, is because of that. And that's one reason. But they are a good mother. So what my thought is rather than trying to incubate eggs and try to get more birds later on in the future that way, I'll just use them to incubate the eggs, and whatever comes from it, I'll eventually use them to rotate out and get new ducks and all like that. And then the extra, I'll probably just sell the extra. It's not going to be for income. I mean, you're talking, I don't know what I'll sell them for, and that may happen. I mean, it may, but I probably won't ever have more than this, So I'll sell them, but it's probably not going to be enough to be considered an income, But for the most part, it's just for me to keep new ducks. Hopefully, not ever have to buy any more ducks if this works, if our system works. And that's why I didn't want to get too many of the mothers. I wanted to get just enough to where basically those mothers, they are giving me a lot of different, they're providing a lot of different services. They're going to be, they are backup meat producers as well. They will be laying eggs that I can eat during the time, and you can eat fertilized eggs. It's, as long before that embryo starts to form, you can eat those eggs. So as long as you're gathering them every day, all that's fine, and some people do eat eggs with the embryo, but I don't want to even get into all that. But anyway, so we'll gather the eggs every day, and then once we do decide, hey, you know what? I think I want some eggs. I think I want some new ducklings in the batch. Then what you can actually do is you pull some of those old eggs out and you put them under your duck, or you put them like in a pile. Ducks don't want to start sitting until there's 20 or so eggs in a pile. So you can be collecting them every day. To do this, you don't want to wash them off. You can't wash them. If you wash them, you can't use those. But so you can gather those eggs and actually put them to the side. And then once you get 20 or so, or once you decide, hey, you know what, I'm ready for some ducklings in there, then you just lay 20 of those, bring them back, put 20 all in one spot, and then their motherly instinct will kick in. The khaki Campbells, it's possible sometimes they do get motherly instincts. They're just less likely to. So most likely the goal is that these two will be the mothers, and the rest of them will continue to lay eggs. That way we can gain food, and our food consumption won't slow down with them, but yet we'll still have the mothers there. So we'll see how it works. And old Drake over here, of course, his job is just to keep the old fertilization going, But drakes do actually, in the ducks, like a lot of times males in certain aspects, they don't have a lot of purpose other than breeding. But ducks actually do, the male duck, the drake, they actually do help protect the rest of the flock. They are more watchful. They are more They do help all of that. So just keep an eye on that. I mean, just keep that in mind. Like, if for nothing else, it's worth having a drake around, just because they're more likely to be out looking around and looking at things and helping to protect and stuff like that. So anyway, I've drawn this video out long enough. I hope y'all got some enjoyment. I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a relaxed video. It's not really about anything specific other than just kind of showing the ducks, and then the cat just kind of hanging around over here. And Delta, she is, of course, y'all saw her. She heard me calling it. Come here, girl. She gets skittish anytime I bring new animals on the farm. And so she's never even seen a duck before. So of course, anytime I bring new animals on there, like I said, I always put them in a pen like this. And now I'm not talking about cows. Cows, I'll put them in the working pen or something like that for a day or so. But she knows that when I get, like, look at her, she just turned around and she's going to skedaddle. Because she knows that when I get new animals, I'll get her used to them, and then eventually I will put her into the pen with them. And that's to get them used to her and get her used to them while I'm here to make sure that nothing's going on that I don't want to happen. She's not used to ducks. It's possible she could decide that that's a meal. You know, you don't ever, you know, she is a dog, and you know, they still have that instinct in them. So we want to get that, you want to make sure that she's used to that, and possibly even offer some protection to them. She's not much of a guard dog. She's more of a, she's pretty much just a pet. And I'm not saying she wouldn't, but anyway, I hope she would. But for the most part, she's just going to be around them. And so we just want to get her used to it. But every time, she always gets skittish because she just is so uncomfortable when I put her in with a new animal. So we'll do that for a little bit. I don't want to torture her, you know. I won't make her suffer for too long. But I'll put her in there for just a little bit. Watch her for a bit, and then eventually I'll go walk around, maybe do some chores, do whatever I need to do to get stuff going, and leave her in there for just long enough to make sure that she's okay with them, they're okay with her, and just make sure that there's not going to be a problem, you know. Because in reality, if she is trying to, you know, protect her home, and all of a sudden she sees new things on the farm that she never recognized, she could actually see that as a predator herself and go after him because of that. But she could also see it as a wild animal. I have seen her go after rabbits and catch a rabbit or two. You know, it's that instinct, you know. So that's something I'll have to watch for. We plan to get rabbits in the future, just for our own consumption, not for resale or anything like that necessarily, but just for our own consumption. And so that's something I'll have to keep an eye on. It would not surprise me if she's going to take a little getting used to before, a little watching before that. And it's partly in her breed. She's got blue and red heeler in her, and they say that the heelers are a little more likely to go after some of the smaller animals. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. So guys, I appreciate y'all watching this far and keeping an eye on everything. And thanks everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey pup.